Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Sean with Boxing and Basketball, along with my man, co-founder, vice president, aka Carcino. Been holding it down for over 10 years now. What's up, Kev?
Hey, I just got an alert for yours. They don't send me alerts. My alerts don't go out. I have a
Yours don't
video.
go out, man. You've been fighting for YouTube for how long now?
Actually, I got a video streaming right now, so that people get to hear me twice.
No, okay.
The world will never know it because they ain't gonna send out no notification.
Yeah, man. You struggle when it comes to them. Let me go ahead and drop this in the comment section so people can hop on and ask questions if need be. So, just want to give y'all a quick update. I know before we had Alejandro on here, Alejandro is still at work and just got off the phone with T Diddy. T Diddy's not going to be able to make it on tonight because he just got done. He's been called up for late night sparring. He's fighting with the up and coming heavyweight amateur. Then he put him in there with this professional. He said this guy hits hard like King Kong. And then he was leaving the gym, and now he's headed out to another gym for more sparring sessions. So I hope he's getting paid pretty good. But he will be on tomorrow night when we want to announce that. If you don't see it, make sure you set your reminder because tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, we're going to have Demetrius Boo Boo Andretti on here so you can ask your questions.
His name is Andre.
Well, Andre.
Don't call him that on the live stream, please.
Andre.
Even though I know you're gonna butcher it.
I thought I said Andre. I said Andretti.
Yep, that's it.
Oh my God, that's the tennis player, I think.
I don't even know.
I meant to say Andre. I'm sorry, Boo Boo. I've had you on here before. I never mutilate your name, but I messed it up this time. Y'all know how it is when you get excited when you got guests.
I think I interviewed him a long time ago.
Yep. So Carcino.
Yeah, that's back when I used to do that.
Hey, look, and Carcino.
The good old days.
So Kev, T Diddy wanted me to tell you, go Lakers Nation.
Oh yeah,
that's what he told me to tell you.
I like the way they're going.
So Carcino, we need your expertise here. So over the past month, and I'm rolling into, I don't know if you heard what Tim Smith said the other day on behalf of PBC, but the thumbnail, if y'all watching, y'all clicked on this thumbnail because it says, how will Al Haymon recoup his money and why does everything have to be on pay-per-view? So Carcino, my question is, it's kind of a twofold. Is Al Haymon still, was he ever generating money? Let me throw this up here. Somebody asked a question or they made a comment. Did Al Haymon ever make any money with the fighters on PBC when it was on free TV? Or was it just money being used by a hedge fund to pay everybody, but it never really generated the money like they thought with advertisements and stuff like that? We'll start off that way.
Okay, because you were like almost answering the question, and that's why you was asking it. But the hedge fund is what bankrolled PBC. When they first started off, they had contract agreements because they paid for their own ad slots. Other than that, they wouldn't have had. They would have just NBC, Bounce TV, Spike TV. They had all these open spaces that they were going to show reruns for, but Al Haymon paid for the advertisement spots himself, put up all the money. So therefore, he gets to keep all of the ad revenue. He don't have to split it with the network because he's already paying full rate for the time slots. They like, you're gonna pay for the slots? Like, no one does that. They normally cut a deal and say, okay, well, whatever we get on the ads, you guys get 20%. So they normally work out a deal. But if you pay the full freight, you get to keep all the ad revenue. So they didn't have that many, and they weren't selling a lot of tickets to a lot of the fights. but it was mostly exposure to build your fighters up so that you can make money off them in the long run. But you wanted to strengthen PBC, so they just really took a bunch of losses and they were just counting that as just writing it off almost. It's hedge fund money. So they was getting some money back off ads, but it wasn't. Al's already rich. He knows this is just an investment to build something, build PBC into the brand where it runs everything. So this is just the beginning. So you're going to be spending a lot of money in the beginning to keep this rolling. And to do that and to keep the fighters happy and everybody on board with what was going on, they overpriced fights, just overbid, way overbid, which is dangerous because now you're going to have these other fighters going to their promoters like, they just got this for this fight. Why I'm not getting that? And he was like, well, they're insane. We're not going to give you that kind of money because the fight isn't worth that kind of money. But now fighters don't see that. They just see all that money going out there, and everybody wants to go run the PBC. They're like, we got to go run the PBC now and take that wave. But eventually that's going to fade out because you're going to start losing these contracts with these other companies when they don't see people paying attention to the fights. It's not really doing anything. I think Bounce TV itself was folding. Spike TV, it wasn't really their audience.
Was it Brown Sugar?
It was a lot of networks. They were just trying to go on to just get people to see it. And what they're going to find out is that when you have people that's not really boxing savvy and knowing how to actually develop fighters, because that's never been their prospect at all, is how to get a fighter, develop them, know how to market them. Al Haymon is great in a lot of areas, but it's very hard for you to have a fighter, know what they're going to be, know how to bring that fighter all the way up. He really didn't know how to do that. Vernon, how he came in the game. So when he came in the game with Vernon Forrest, that was his first fighter he ever signed. And it's a major difference from working with one fighter and you can help that one fighter along than being responsible for 70, 80 fighters and building a company. And he saw how hard that was. All these different personalities, a lot of things moving. And he didn't have the structure the way he wanted it. He wanted to have Richard Schaefer come on board. And Richard could use his contacts that he has overseas, a lot of those guys that he built those relationships with, because Golden Boy Promotions was already set in place, and that was supposed to be their ground. And a lot of people don't know this, but they wanted to fire Oscar De La Hoya and have him removed from Golden Boy Promotions. And completely, they were like, this is it. He needs to step down. Oscar has to go. He's ruining the company. So Oscar didn't see it this way, decided to fight, and it's like, they're trying to steal my company. But Oscar had a bunch of substance abuse problems, a lot of problems that's bad for business. So it's like, you're the golden boy. The golden boy can't be out here powdered up, drunk, and got a wife and kids at home and everything else, and you just roaming the streets at night. That's not the golden boy. And then he's doing his major pay-per-view runs. Mayweather Canelo, they had to basically remove him from the tour because he was messed up, wasted, and they had to put him in rehab in the middle of the promotion. He couldn't even attend the fight. That's how bad Oscar was at that time. So Canelo's biggest moment, you weren't even there. He couldn't even depend on you. So once the fight was over and everything was reshaping, Al Haymon snatched all his fighters away. And they wanted to have Canelo go with them. And they said, Canelo, come with us, because we already, Oscar doesn't do anything. This company's breaking up. Everybody's leaving. So you can come with us. We like you, And he bolted and wanted to stay loyal to Oscar. even though Oscar put him in a very bad situation, signing him illegally, lying to him about his contract that he had over in Mexico, which cost him millions of dollars, to that other promoter that signed him before Golden Boy swindled him, told him don't worry about it, they got it covered, and Canelo lost in court, spent all that money on court, lost a lot of it, millions. Then the judge ruled in that guy's favor, and he had to get paid back millions. And Golden Boy's like, didn't see that coming. But they said they would handle it, and that the contract was legal, and it wasn't. So even though they've done that to him, Canelo stayed loyal and decided to stay with Oscar and give him a chance. And now this was the last straw.
Right.
You can't do it no more. But as for Al is right now, all the companies are trying to survive, but PPC was running the whole ship. The company got to where Al wanted, to where he can put guys on pay-per-view. The problem is, like, Al has a facility where he trains these fighters, former basketball players, former football players. It's like if you blew your knee out and you can no longer play football or basketball, here's some gloves. Go hit on the bag and train for about a couple months, and then you can get in the boxing ring. I can get you some money and get you some fights. This is how Al Haymon has been making his business, mostly out in the Florida area, because he knows. So a lot of these players and athletes their careers end in college. A lot of them don't. They try to go to the pros and it don't work out. So they take those fighters or take those players rather and try to transform them into boxers. And he's been making his bones by doing this and actually having the guys who he want to be the stars and trying to create them. But he's forgetting the boxing element of it, the actual being able to know how to fight. And just because you put them with the best trainers, you get the best people around them, it doesn't mean it. Fighter has to be in that person to be a fighter.
Right.
They can't be like, I need to make some money, man. I'm gonna just try this boxing thing out because basketball ain't finna make it, and this ain't make it, and man, I'll get a couple fights, I can get some money. This guy out, so he can give me some money if I'm doing this. And that's how you end up with people like, what's his name, George Washington, that he found. That came out of nowhere. Everybody's rooting for him. And it's sad because boxing is at such a state to where people are actually, the boxing fans are actually rooting for these guys that are not good. I'm like, this guy is really not good. Like, he's very basic, and they'll still be rooting him down. Like, no, he's the next one. I'll be like, gosh, they got you too. Then when they get in the ring with a real fighter, they get carved up like a Thanksgiving turkey. And it's like, well, everybody knew this was coming.
Right.
They fall in love with the story. And it's like they build up a C-rated fighter and build up another C-rated fighter and had them fighting a big mega fight. And then people forget they both C-rated fighters.
Right.
But Al's been good at pulling that off. Now, the problem is now they ran into a situation because the boxing lane and a lot of that has changed due to streaming. People are streaming fights now, and they're getting the information quicker. So even if you have a pay-per-view event, illegal streams are taking about 30% of that business. It's hurting that because a lot of people are watching illegal streams. They're not even going to pay the money to see it. And then it's on social media about 10 seconds right after the fight is over. People are watching highlights. They're watching clips. They're watching everything on the internet. People be like, yeah, I just saw how the fight ended yesterday, like 10 minutes ago. So they feel no need to go back to really watch the fight. And then it's forgotten about, and then they skip to the next thing. So they've been trying to find avenues for this, and people are just, because of COVID, it really damaged the business. It broke the monotony of everyone getting up, going to the fights, going to see a fight and doing this. Now there's like, well, boxing makes the majority of their money from attendance. People go in there to actually see the fights. It's a fight of attendance where you need to be there. This is how it grows. You got to be able to see the fights. People go out, they want to get dressed up, to go to events, they want to spend money at the concessions. It's an event that you need people to go to keep it going, keep it thriving. You need people in the seats. So if you're watching it on TV, I mean, was watching a fight and there's like nobody in the arena. I'm just watching boxing and it just seems so dull just because there's no fans. It's just like
Right.
it's hard to have a boxing match without fans. So in that estimate, I mean, you're looking at the situation now. Al Haymon has definitely put a lock on the game as far as spots because he can set up matches and he's draining other people's pay-per-view money. And it's messing up the market because if you keep putting showcase fights or fights that have no business being on pay-per-view, even if you're charging $29.99 for the fight or $39.99, $40 is outrageous. But if you're charging about $30 a fight, you could do less than 10,000 or however homes, 15,000 homes. You can make some money back. But they were charging $80 to see Tank Davis fight.
Yeah, that's like prices that you normally only pay to see like Floyd Mayweather, not Tank Davis.
Exactly. Not a showcase fight. They put
snap, Kev, ho. We gotta give a shout out. Naftali. All right, $10. Say, God bless you, bro, man. I appreciate it. Got my first donation. Thank you, brother. Now we're going to get to your question earlier about Terrence Crawford. All right, go ahead, Kev.
And they're putting the fights at $80. That's too high of a price for a lot of Tank Davis fights. A lightweight getting that kind of money, it's insane. So now what you're doing is you got that fight coming up. Then you have a big fight coming up with Sean Porter and Terrence Crawford like the next week. $80 to watch some showcase fight. They just got swindled. $80 down the drain to watch a showcase fight. Like, okay, Luis Ortiz versus
Charles Martin.
That should never be $40 on pay-per-view. Now, but the problem is, what the situation is that nobody's putting up the money for this fight. PBC would have to. So PBC, like, we're not putting up the money. If the fans want these fights, they're going to pay for it. So they putting it on pay-per-view, letting the people buy the fight. Right. So the people are paying for the fight, and that's less cost and less everything on PBC. So they're just throwing almost everything on pay-per-view. They barely gave you any free fights because they got fighters they got to pay that's sitting on the sidelines because there's no venues open to like put them in there because you got to train. You got to do all of these different things to get prepared for a fight. And depending on their contracts, most of the fighters have to pay out of pocket to their trainers. Now they say they get COVID-19 in training camp. Now all those trainers and sparring, everybody had to get paid. That's coming out of the fighter's pocketbook. And he only gets paid when he fights. So now there's a big problem. Because now he didn't spend all this money, and now they're saying the fight's canceled because of COVID. He don't get paid. This guy don't get paid. But now everybody else is made out except for the fighter. Now he doesn't get a dime. So a lot of guys had to sit down because they had a lot of problems like this. So this happened to Nonito Dunier, and he was fighting it because he went and took some other tests. He felt he had a fake positive and a false positive. So yeah, that happened with him. And this is how a lot of people are grounded right now. You're seeing a lot of people sit on the sidelines for about a year because they're getting paid, but they can't put them in a venue to fight. Right. So they're taking a losses by keeping these guys where they're like, we don't want to let you go. But when things start getting back, we're going to start getting guys integrated more into the fights. But we got to sit guys down that, it's not hot right now. We just got to let you sit. We still believe in you, but when venues got to start opening up so we can start putting together some events and getting you on the cards.
Right.
But the way COVID is keeping it at this small rate right now, and it's slowly crawling back. And then as soon as we're crawling back, now we're getting hit with a new thing, a mutation of it, this Omicron, and now everyone is back running back in the house. So it's like a never-ending cycle of
Right.
fear, and that's going to hurt the sport once again. So you're going to be seeing more of these pay-per-views from PBC. And will they make their money? Al's made his money. I mean, whenever you have Floyd Mayweather as your main ace, he would make the money for the entire PBC. One pay-per-view from Floyd, and it's done.
Well, that's what in Carcino, that's what I want to hit on. Most people talk about Al Heyman has his money. Al Heyman is rich, but can PBC, the company, sustain paying out those type of paydays? Like you said earlier, I've talked to at least 3 or 4 promoters when Al Heyman, like you said, was overpaying, and every promoter, and actually 3 or 4 managers I talked to, or boxing coaches, was like, "There's no way Al Heyman can sustain this payment to these fighters. It can't last, and these fighters going to get spoiled." And Kev, I remember one time you talked about where Floyd Mayweather lashed out with the fighters. These guys are spoiled. They think they need to be making this kind of money. I had to go through, this and that, only making 30,000, 40,000. These guys want more than what they worth and blah. I was shocked to see even Floyd lash out against some of his TMT fighters because they wanted more money.
Oh, that wasn't me, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, that wasn't me. I'm like, when did he do that? But I'm like,
Oh, I thought me and you talked about that.
no, but yeah, I mean, I believe he did that. I wouldn't doubt that 100%. But he didn't say that to us.
So yeah, so Al has the money. Al is super rich, but the
But
brand
PBC as a
PBC, can it
company,
can it
could
sustain?
it? Depends. I mean, yeah, I'll still be able to go because Al could always put money behind it. See, Al has already done a deal in Dubai, and Dubai already wants to put like major money behind Al Heyman and him bringing boxing out there. That's why everybody's in Dubai and India right now. That's where boxing is thriving. They are right now. They got Nate Jones is out there training a whole slew of their fighters that they got. He's been there for like 2 months. He's supposed to have been there 2 weeks. Come home, and now he's still out there. He ain't left Dubai, and that's how I knew that's where Floyd was going to be fighting. Yeah, he was going to do a fight over there because Nate was staying there, and he wanted Nate to stay right there. Don't leave because he was coming over there, and I kind of figured that's what they were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
They had a bunch of opponents lined up who Floyd would fight, but he's going to fight on a helipad, which is very dramatic and dumb. But they want to do. I'm like, so how the fans gonna get up there? How the camera gonna be up there? How you gonna put all that weight on the helipad? I'm like,
I no, I thought there wasn't going to be fans. I thought this was like exclusive, and you had to pay
yeah,
this money to actually see it because you're not going to be able to sit ringside. So
that's
we're
what
going to
I'm
charge an
saying.
arm and a leg.
So is this only gonna be on stream? Is that what they're gonna do? That's how it's gonna be done? Because if
I'm not 100% sure, but that's what, to me, it seemed like he
that's
was
not how
alluding
you
to.
make your money, especially in exhibitions. Exhibition, they make it exclusive. So people are paying the really rich are paying like $1 million a ticket, 500,000 a ticket. They love the exclusiveness of it. Where they bring their wives out, they get dressed, they want to show off to the other millionaire. So that's what happened in Japan. They charged an arm and a leg for that 90-second fight that he had over there.
Right.
They didn't care. They just wanted to be part of an exclusive event. They got dressed up. They came out there in Japan and they got what they wanted.
Right.
So Floyd made like 9-some million off that alone, just for 90 seconds.
Right.
So
And Kevin, let me throw this out there also. Earlier you mentioned about Al Heyman, Vernon Forrest being one of his his first fighters. But for those of y'all out there that don't know this, back in 1978, Al Heyman's brother, Bobby Heyman, lost a third round stoppage to the great Sugar Ray Leonard. So there was some exposure to boxing for Al Heyman, but as far as him having his own fighter was definitely was definitely with Vernon Force. And when Al Heyman first came out, Carcino's the first one that told me. It's like, oh, Al Heyman, he comes from the music industry. Sam Watson, I said, well, where did Sam Watson come from? Oh, music industry also. Can you shed a little background to how him and Sam Watson came about, and how Sam came on a boxing, and his his sons end up coming along too?
Well, the thing about Al saw how his brother was treated, like in the boxing business, and he was just like, man, like that business is so messed up. Like there's no government, there's nothing in place. It's like you basically can get paid out of a shoebox. And it's like a cigar box. That's how they used to pay fighters back in the day. They're going to the cigar box to get the money out and just start paying the fighters. And it was like bad back then. And he's like, and it's still messed up. There's no unions, there's nothing in place to govern boxing. He's like, and then fighters leave with nothing, and they're just all bruised and battered for the rest of their lives. And he just saw how he did his brother, and he said, "Man, I'm gonna fix this. I'm gonna fix boxing." And he told his brother, he's like, "I'm gonna get into boxing. I'm gonna fix it." But Sam Watson, like Sam and him connected like immediately. Al got a lot of people he's connected to, but Sam is the most notable. And Sam was working in boxing and like way before Al was. He was in the music thing too, helping out with Al, but he was into boxing as well. Sam Watson's been here a long time. He was always behind the scenes, and people were going back to old fights and was like, "Oh my God, that's Sam Watson." I mean, like old fights, and then you'll see Sam in there working for like HBO. He was doing a lot of different things at the time. He was always like the director of boxing, where he around. So Al knew that Al Heyman knew that Sam could get things done, and Sam was his face. Al don't like to be seen. He don't like to be shown. Leave him out of it. So him and HBO Boxing, they couldn't stand Al, but they couldn't do nothing about Al. It's like we are tied to this guy, and we don't want to be, but this is the man right now, Al Heyman, and he never wants to be shown. No HBO camera could show him. And he knew that when you shoot this, do not shoot me and put me on camera. And if you put Al on camera, you were gonna have some very serious problems with it.
Right.
Al was literally the mob. This guy wanted to do an article on an interview, and before people wouldn't even speak his name. The reporters was terrified. Al had this one guy, man. This reporter was wanting to do I'm going to get the scoop. I'm going to find out everything I can about this Al. And this guy just approached him. He said, "Hey, you're the guy that's been asking about Al Heyman around town and going through trying to go to his old neighborhoods and all that." He said, "Yeah. You know anything?" He said, "Oh yeah, I just want to let you know. Al knows what you're doing. Yeah, and he doesn't like it." He's like, "I'm not saying you can't do anything about it, but if I was you, I would just stop."
Wow.
He's like, "I would just stop." But you can do
the mistake of Al Heyman.
He said, "You can do what you want to do. It's not a threat. I'm just letting you know. If I was you."
That was a dry snitch threat.
No, he was really trying to inform him that Al is aware of you.
Exactly.
And he don't like it.
Yeah, how else are you going to take that? Yeah, that's threatening my life.
If I was you, I would just stop. And that guy was so scared. He's like, "I just dropped it." I was like, I don't know. This guy is like the man of mystery. You couldn't find a picture of Al Heyman at that time.
Yeah.
It was very hard at that time to find a photo of Al Heyman on the internet. He loved that. Al do not want to be known in that instance, but he want people to know his name. Make sure you let the people know. Like they gotta say when they win a fight, the fighters know. I was thank Al Haymon. Gotta thank Al Haymon. Gotta say Al Haymon. So people can keep saying that name. Al Haymon, Al Haymon. Because they know before you say that.
So here's the crazy part, Carson. I understand. Al Heyman doesn't want to be on TV, but you want people shouting your name out. That just doesn't make sense to me.
It does. It makes great business sense. Because if people keep hearing that name, I keep hearing that guy's name, Al Haymon. Like, man, you guys work for him? I want to work for him. I was like, have you ever seen the guy? It's like, yeah, we see him all the time. He's like a ghost. People want, but I was like, man, he's got everybody. Everybody's like, I want to thank Al Haymon. Who is Al Haymon? And Sam Watson for years, people thought he was Al Haymon. They had Al Haymon, the report, they had Sam Watson's picture there. It's like, oh, that's Al Haymon. And he knows, he's heard it for years, and he would just be like, they'd be, hey, Al Haymon, and he just wave. I'm like, Sam. He's like, man, I get it all the time, man. Yeah, they know me. They know him, Sam. Everybody be like, hey, Sam, and I'll be saying, and they be like, Al Haymon. I'll be like, and he just wait.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
And look, and also we want to give a shout out to Dominique Lavelle. Man, dropped some money in the place. But Kev, let's go back real quick. We're gonna hop back on PBC and Al Haymon, but we definitely want to answer one of Naftali's questions. He donated to the super chat. He said there's some good stuff here, and he wants to know, Carcina, if you were managing Terrence Crawford's career, how would you manage his latter part? What would you do going forward for Terrence Crawford if you're a manager?
Fight Josh Taylor, demand a fight for the IBF belt or strip Errol. Errol will have to fight or be stripped. And he should be fighting the winner of the Errol Spence Ugas fight. That should be it. Let him fight Josh Taylor and get that fight in. Then go ahead and fight the winner of Errol Spence and Ugas. See, PBC has a plan that does not involve Terrence Crawford. They want Bud to go through some more tough fights. Let him get beat up. Meanwhile, they want Errol to fight Ugas, then Keith Thurman. They already got 3 fights lined up for him. Make it all PBC. So they get to keep all that money. So they already got his 3-fight plan laid out. They was like, no, we're going to have you fight Ugas. And after you fight Ugas, then you're going to fight Keith Thurman. And then you and Keith will fight for the title. And then we're going to put that on pay-per-view. That's another $80 we can charge. And we're going to have them fight another. They're going to make another welterweight fight for them. And that's going to be another $80. And now this Boots Ennis is supposed to be the new truth of the whole division, and he's going to walk through everything. PBC has built this guy up without him beating anybody. This guy got about 27 wins and no losses with 24 knockouts, and I can't name you probably one opponent he's beaten, except for that was a welterweight. He beat a guy that was semi-retired in his last fight, but he's the man to beat. Can nobody beat Boots Ennis? I was like, man, goodness, this is just out of hand. It's completely out of hand, but this is what happens. Boots Ennis is a decent fighter. He's got some skill, but he hasn't faced any adversity. He hasn't fought anybody with any real skill to challenge him. I mean, I've seen him get rocked. I've seen him get hurt by the only guy with some experience. But if he fought anybody his size or any welterweight who knows how to fight, Boots Ennis will be in trouble because all his defense is not there. He telegraphs his punches. He keeps his chin exposed. His offense is his defense. He's looking to land the big left. His right hook is suspect. It's so many flaws in his amateur flaws, things that could be worked out in a gym with real trainers. It's like little slight things. Too much movement, Sean. Too much movement. It's unnecessary movement. It's things that will get you beat by a professional. A real professional fighter. Like people like, he would have beat Floyd. Floyd would have destroyed this kid. he would have destroyed him because he would have saw everything that I see in first watch. I'm like, is this the guy? Y'all serious? I was like, oh my gosh. They're like, look how strong he is. Look at his speed and his size. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, Terrence Crawford will hurt this kid. I was like, y'all don't really understand this. I'm like, Terrence would destroy this guy's body. He would do. I mean, it's all here. It
Well,
is
yeah,
all.
and Carcino, there's a lot of fighters that are like that. Like, they used to say that about Rashi Warren. Rashi came out and like, oh, he's still fighting amateur style, which is okay. Like you said, these guys just got to learn how to fight a pro style, and like you said, if you coach them and get them there, they'll learn to sit down on your punches, not jittery jumping all around the ring, but learn to sit down and really just buckle down and fight. But you're right, Ennis can learn, but right now it is an amateur style. But the right coach, the right trainer, he can get there.
Yeah, I just think it's the right. It's also the right matchups. See, you don't benefit your fighter just throwing them in there with tomato cans. He can just walk through. When you do that and you don't get them into facing different styles of fighters, if you keep them feeding them the same type of, and this is what PBC problem is, they're bad with matchups. They're real bad. They do not know how to progressively develop a fighter. And this is where Top Rank beats them. They do not know how to develop a fighter at all. You have to know how to put them in there with the right fights to get them on the right level. You look at Shakur Stevenson. If you would have put Stevenson in there with Jamel Herring about 2 years ago, Shakur Stevenson gets beat easy. But they brought him up fighting different styles. Instead of him doing the amateur and just boxing, throwing a jab and staying outside all night, now he's learning how to set traps and how to still be defensive coming forward. He didn't have that confidence before. He put up a stinker of a fight in his other fight before that, fighting a different style. So now he's prepared for the same style that he fought that night is the style he fought with Jamel. Jamel fought, his game plan was way off of that fight. He got engaged way too early into the fight. And the speed was costing him. So a lot of it caused a lot of adrenaline, a lot of wasted energy, a lot of things was thrown to the side. It was a bad night for Jamel. Right. But Shakur Stevenson was on point because they knew how to bring him up. And now he's fully developed for 140. He wasn't really a 140 all the way. Now he's comfortable fighting at the weight. But for him, I just hope he can control his weight, keep his weight down so he can always compete at the weight class if he's going to stay at this weight class.
Right. And Carcino, let me ask you this. So I want to, Ben, we're talking about PBC. Man, a lot of people, man, was not happy with what Tim Smith from PBC said this week on the live broadcast. If you didn't get a chance to, I'm online now and I'm grabbing snippets of things that Tim said. And first of all, he's upset with the new media. Carcino, they call us the new media because we're not like the Dan Raphaels or Kevin. How do you say Kevin's last name? Ioli?
Yeah.
Is that how you say
Kevin Ioli?
Kevin Ioli. So they asked him, and listen, these were alley-oop slam dunks for Tim, because they had their own guy asking Tim these questions. And Tim Smith was like, man, the reporters who focus on the business side don't know nothing about the sport. He said, because they think they're all promoters and they think they network executives. And then he said, there is only a couple riders that can really tell stories and break down a fight. The others, all they want to talk about is the business side and numbers because they don't understand what they're watching. And I'm thinking, no, Tim, the reason why people talk about it, because y'all talk about it. We did 15 million gate. We did, 300,000 pay-per-views. Nobody else is doing the business that we're doing. So if y'all are going to throw that out there, you don't think we're going to talk about it? You just want us to break down a fight and not talk about the business side? Y'all bring it up, so we talk about it.
That's true. That is true. If they did not advertise what the fighters are getting paid, if they just advertise just the fight, nobody would care. I would think. I don't think
Right.
anybody would put forth any care whatsoever into what a fighter was getting if they didn't know the salaries. They
Right.
broadcast what a fighter's getting paid. This fight has generated this much money. We're the number one top grosser. You talk business to the public and you feed them these numbers. So it's
Right.
only right that they talk business back
Right.
because you the one brought it to the forefront.
Right. And look, and here's the part that really pissed off almost everybody when he talked about the Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence. He said they're asking what's stopping the Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford? Economics. Man, you don't want to insult Terrence Crawford, but he hasn't been built into a pay-per-view star. And nobody wants to make him an offer that's insulting. The numbers just won't be enough to give him what he wants. All right, so okay, so basically, all right, so we're not getting a fight now, Tim, because of economics. Basically, they're saying we got money, we got the money we need for Errol Spence because Errol's our pay-per-view star. But Terrence, you ain't proved yourself, so we ain't gonna give you what you're asking for.
That's basically what he's saying. And what they're saying is, and to the public is, we're not going to give you the fight you want to see. So it's like, look, we're not here to.
Oh, and I'm sorry. And real quick, Carson, just like you said earlier about, he brought that up about people are stealing pay-per-views, and because people are stealing pay-per-views, nobody's going to buy this Errol Spence Terrence Crawford fight. But just about every media outlet is like, no, people would actually pay for that pay-per-view.
He knows that he's setting the stage for saying. So I'll be like, well, make it make sense. No one would buy Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, but everybody's gonna buy Errol Spence and Ugas. Is that what you're telling us? Because that's the fight you made.
Good point. Good point. Good point.
So I'll be like, why is this fight on the pay-per-view? Why are we here? If there's no one's gonna buy the Terrence Crawford Errol Spence fight,
good point.
Why are they gonna run out and buy Errol Spence and Ugas? You might as well just take that off pay-per-view and put it on Showtime because there ain't no reason why. And I'm here to back that fight being on pay-per-view. I'm okay. I am so okay with that being a fight for pay-per-view. Ugas is a welterweight. He's a champion, and he deserved that fight. It deserves to be on pay-per-view against Errol. All this other stuff we've been seeing, that hadn't deserved to be on pay-per-view. So when people see this, they get drained from seeing all these showcase fights putting on there. Ugas deserved to be there. He destroyed Manny Pacquiao. He's the only person I know who really earned the right to be on pay-per-view. I'm like, he beat Manny Pacquiao up. I mean, it's like he took him in the alley like he was a little kid or something who was bothering him, and he just beat the mess out of him for about 12 straight rounds. I said, oh, my goodness. Every time the little dude hit him, Manny hit him good, boom. He'll block that and catch him with that Cuban right. Boom. I'm like, Manny ain't never seen that a day in his life because he's never fought a Cuban fighter. They kept him away from Casa Mayor. Anytime it was a fighter he was supposed to fight, he never fought Freitas. They kept feeding him, Top Rank kept him in the bubble and said, no, you're going to fight these Mexicans, and we're going to keep these flat-foot Mexicans that come forward, and we're going to keep you fighting them. And then he fought Marquez, somebody who could box and give him angles, but he was the only one that could fight and set traps for Manny. That's why they were always going to have problems with fighters like that, and he knew that. He wasn't going to put him in there with somebody that could expose Manny and they lose the money. I mean, they stole Manny from what's his name, Murad Muhammad. They took it from him, and they've been rolling ever since. Yep. So they've been rolling ever since, and he bankrolled that whole company. Now, Terrence Crawford didn't take off because at Top Rank, they don't know how to manage or know how to promote to African-American fighters. Fred Steinberg, who's in charge of that, I'm sorry, Fred Steinberg ain't the guy you should have in charge of promoting African-American fighters. It's just right. I'm sorry, he's not connected. He doesn't
Yeah.
get it. And that is their main problem there, because that's not their center focus. Their center focus is the euro money. Top Rank is about euro. So they get the euro dollars, international dollars, and they're making those people American stars. They're good at promoting that. Like Lomachenko's their money bag. You know, they bring him over. They got a European fighter. They get euro dollars. They go to New York, get the euro money. But they're not thinking about the black dollars. They just say, okay, well, we'll put some black fighters on there so they can come see them if they want. But they don't know how to market them. They don't know how to connect to them on social media. They don't try. They don't have a department that really does that. That's Fred's job. And Fred hasn't done a very good job. Fred is like 60-year-old Jewish man. You're going to try to get him to we're going to put a big sticker on the back of the bus. It drives through the black neighborhoods. And they're going to come out rolling. We're going to have bells and whistles. We're going to have tassels. And we're going to have everything confetti. It's going to be great.
Oh, man. That's too funny.
Yeah. Got to change with the times, man. They really are behind with marketing to us. That's why Tim Bradley, they didn't know what to do with Tim Bradley. They were like, he won the fight, but what are we going to do with him now?
Right.
How are we going to market him now? They don't know how to promote Terrence Crawford. They tried to sell him with I'm like, this is a guy from Nebraska. Nebraska don't have any boxers known to man.
Right.
The only boxer they had and the only fame they had was this one guy that got beat up by Muhammad Ali, I think 30, 40, 50 years ago. That was it. He's in a sport where it's college football and basketball. College sports rule everything in Nebraska. So they ain't thinking about boxing.
Kev, you saw what they did. Kev, you saw what they did. They're like, let's put him in a spotlight with Warren Buffett. He's from Nebraska.
Yeah, that is exactly. I was just going to say that. The worst marketing idea pitch, and everybody scratching their head that was like following Bud, like, man, he with Warren Buffett? like that's cool. They both from Nebraska, and Warren Buffett liked him so much, but they were marketing that because they didn't know any other angle to market to him. I mean, but that's not going to get the people that follow him out of bed.
Yeah.
He need to be on a press run. Why wasn't Terrence Crawford on the Breakfast Club? Why wasn't he on Hot 97? Why wasn't he doing these press runs? Now, early on, he still is not all the way there with the media training and getting him ready to talk to the media. He's better, a lot better than what he used to be. Like, he would say maybe 5 words to the media. He really did not like talking to the media at all. Terrence Crawford was not a good interview. If you can ever get to talk to Terrence Crawford, you will see he do not really like talking to the media. So now since he's been in the light, he's opened up a lot more where people get to see the personality of him. But what drives him is bitterness. And that's his key. And this is what Sean Porter was saying. It's like, this is what drives him, that someone thinks someone else is better than him. That bitterness. He needs that edge. It's what drives him. When people say, oh, you can't do that. You're not as good as this guy. This guy's worth more. You're not a pay-per-view star. He is. And you ain't the best welterweight. That guy is. He got to prove to them. That's why he wants the public. Now he asking the public, now who the best welterweight? I just stopped Sean Porter. There's nobody ever stopped. Who the best welterweight now? He care more about that. And that's what drives him to beat everybody. Ain't nobody gonna be better than me. That guy's better than me. I gotta fight. And that's the attitude that's missing out of the sport. Now, everybody who was defending Errol, now they kind of getting off the boat. And the more he don't do this, the worse it's gonna be. Because he gonna have them belts. And he better be focused on Ugas, because everything he been talking has been like after Ugas. They trying to
and you know what, Carcino, it's funny you said that, because I've actually seen people online say, hey, you better not take Ugas lightly. I've heard people say that.
Yeah. I mean, it don't matter when they get to the car. All you got to do is get to the cars. Ugas would have to stop Errol to win that fight. I mean, really, he would have to stop Errol to get that fight. And the thing is that we don't know how well Errol is right now because he has not looked good. Last time we saw him in the ring, he fought one time, and it's already over a year since he had that fight against Danny Garcia. And
and Carcina, and I told you my thoughts on this. Me personally, in the money and the millions he's made, a few million, I personally feel once you have detached retina repaired, I really think you should get out of boxing. I don't think it's worth you catching that nice right punch that detaches your retina completely. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, right now they can fix. It's not like when Sugar Ray Leonard had it. When Sugar Ray had it, he retired immediately. He had a detached retina, so he retired. And they was like, "Oh my God, he can go blind in that eye, and he can't see no more." So people was like, "Yeah, you shouldn't go ahead and fight no more." So Ray was gone for years, and then he came back with his detached retina and fought Hagler, and they made that the whole story. Ray could go blind. Oh my God, if he hit him, Ray's gonna go blind. It sold the whole fight. Ray could go blind. Why is he doing this? He could go blind in his eye, and he's gonna fight this man who's just brutal. And I was like, they did so much marketing. There was so much story built into that. Will Ray go blind? Tune in.
Right.
To see the fight. See if Ray would go blind. But surgeries now, it's like fighters can continuously have a career with a detached retina. They can still, okay. But the thing is that you don't want to continuously do this. The problem is he has not looked good, John, in the ring. Like he looked good for that first half of the Danny Garcia fight. The last 5-6 rounds, he looked terrible. And in the sparring for the Manny Pacquiao fight, wasn't going great for Errol. Everybody was like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" Like we at the point where this should be picking up. Like we're getting close to the weeks. That's why people doubted his injury when he went and had the surgery and everything on his eye. Everybody doubted it. Everybody think that was his out clause because he was looking really bad in sparring. Keith Thurman, I think, did a video. They ended up making him take it down because he talked about, he's like, "Man, this sparring partner with like this guy was down the street. He was giving Errol the business, like boom, 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 boom. Like, man, it was bad. Like Errol is looking bad out here." Like they take Keith Thurman's video down.
Right. And look, Carcino, and I think I've told you about it, but a lot of people don't realize, I heard from a couple of sources right before Errol Spence fought Sean Porter. I was told by a couple of sources that Errol got dropped in the last day of sparring and the last round of work they were put in, and he got dropped and was out of it. I don't know if they meant that he was out on his feet or maybe he took a knee, or they're like, ho, stop it. All right, it's over. I mean, this was the last sparring day, last round. Let's stop now. So a lot of people don't realize he got hurt and, out on his feet the last day of sparring before, the week of the Sean Porter fight. So to me, that kind of makes sense what you're saying. And I don't know if that was pre-Errol Spence, when he used to drink and all that, or,
I mean, when you drink, it's automatically going to take tolls on your body. People don't understand that. They think that, "Oh, I didn't feel nothing." When you drinking and consistently drinking, it's breaking down your body. Some people age quicker. Their hair grow faster. Like it causes all these different things to go on inside your body, and people don't realize you're taking punches for a living. Nate Jones would attest to this because Nate used to drink all the time, and that basically ruined his career. And he's like, "I never drunk when I was fighting. I used to drink all the time, and it just took a toll on my body. And then when I started getting hit, you don't recover as well, So everybody was like, man, the head injuries and stuff that he took, it diminished his skills. Because what drinking does is it cuts off your reaction time, your reflexes. That's delayed. That's the first thing. Because when you get drunk, you react slower. All your reaction time and all of that, the brain, whatever the signal is to make you react when something comes right away, that's delayed.
You're right.
So this is a sport of boxing where you want to be able to be ahead of the puncher. Your reaction and reflexes is everything. And this is what happened to Roy Jones. Roy Jones drinking.
Hey, Dominique Lavelle said Nate Jones said Errol Spence needs to slow down. That's why I take Terrence over him because of discipline.
You know what, Dominique? He said that right before the crash. Me and him had that conversation. He had just said it in the interview. Me and him just had that conversation about Errol's drinking. And the accident happened probably the next day, like the very next day, or because this is like right after the Sean Porter fight. Like he was still celebrating like that whole week because this happened like a week after the fight. And it was always about Errol's drinking. And I was like, Errol Spence, and I made a video about it right before this crash hit. When he's like, man, we just talked about this. And we knew he was drunk already just from the time, the car flipping over, him driving that fast, hitting the speed bump, not in the seatbelt, knew he was drunk. And then they were like, they're going to do the test results to see was he drinking. We knew he was drinking. We was like, he was drinking, he was drunk. We were just hoping he was alive because it was like, man, that's probably his career. To see him, to be able to get back in the ring, that's an accomplishment on its own. But psychologically, if he gets buzzed again, I don't know if his confidence is there because I seen his confidence go in that Danny Garcia fight. Him and Danny Garcia accidentally headbutted each other, and Errol was out of the fight. Sean, I've never seen that. He was out. He was out of it. He didn't even try to fight no more. He lost rounds 9, 10, 11, and 12. I mean, that headbutt took such an effect. He shut down. I said, he shut down and trying to coast just to get to the car. Then he's like, I got to go back to the training and get myself back. He's like, I'm not going to do it on my own no more. I'm going to go back to my strength and conditioning coach. Because he's like, I didn't feel like myself.
Yep, and Carcino, and we had this from Frank. Why is everything pay-per-view? And he said boxing hasn't been the same since HBO left boxing.
It's not HBO. Boxing was terrible back then, too. That's why HBO pulled out of it. Boxing used to be the sport that would lead to people coming in and watch their main shows. Like on Saturday nights, they would have their main movie night. And or their major movie premiere, they would start on Saturday night. And then right after the big movie go off, that normally premiered a whole new movie. Then it would lead into their sports, their boxing. So people would stay on HBO and they would have all these high ratings because they'll have a movie everybody been waiting to see on HBO. They're like, oh man, I can't wait till this movie come on HBO. It's coming on cable for the first time tonight. We're going to watch it. That come on at 7. As soon as that go off at like 9, so here come the fights. HBO Sports come on. Then you're like, all right, the fight's on. Now everybody got the movies already. They done streamed it about 1 million times. So now you done seen the movie 1,000 times before it even hit HBO. Now it come on HBO for the first time. Some people might watch it, but others don't. And now people watch more series now because of streaming. They like network series that just keep going on and on. And they'll be like, you know what? I'll catch the fight later. I don't have to watch it now. I can catch it later.
Right.
Because they got streaming. So it's no necessity for them to go and watch it. Then they end up not watching it at all because they'll see the whole fight on YouTube the next day. So It's like, it cuts out so much of people going to HBO for sports. The sports used to be the hook to get people to subscribe. Then that started dropping like a fly. It was like, well, that's dropping now. Do we really need boxing anymore? We're paying $130 million to keep boxing on HBO a year. Do we really need it? Nope. Let that 130 million, put that 130 million to something else, and say goodbye to boxing. And they let HBO boxing go like that. I mean, Lampley was crying. They put Lampley out of business because, Lampley had his show and he thought he was rolling. He thought HBO was still going to roll. He was, what about me? They were like, thank you for your years of service. This is outrageous. Max, did you know anything about this? Max, I'm on ESPN. I'm good. I already got my deal. I'm good.
Yeah, and Carcino, we're going to hit you with one last question. What are your thoughts? I don't know if you heard it or not, but what are your thoughts on recently this week? Rick Glazier says, I'm in partnership and I am teaming up with the real Rick Ross, and we're going to be in business. Now, Carcino, I told you back in the day, I met the real Rick Ross when we were in San Antonio. And that's when Austin Trout was about to fight Canelo, and he wanted to get his promoter's license then, or manager's license then. But at the time, for those of y'all don't know, 50 Cent had a company called SMS Promotions, and I think Jay-Z had, what was he just using his Rock Nation Promotions or Rock Sports or whatever it was?
Yeah, they were Rock Nation Sports, but they were there at different times.
Yeah. But it was all around the same time that the real Rick Ross was trying to get into the business. And I think he wanted to work with Floyd Mayweather, but Al Haymon shut that down. And it was before, years before he came up with the PBC. But now it seems like Rick Ross is back around again. And this time he hired Rick Glazier. So what are your thoughts on, is there any room left for anybody new to get into boxing to try to do anything with the scarcity of the networks?
They're not going to work with Rick Glazier, man. They're not going to work with Rick Glazier, man. That's like saying you signed a deal to have, who's the guy that used to run Boxing Talk?
Greg Leon.
Greg Leon. That's like saying you got Greg Leon to represent you as your advisor. That is not, you ain't going nowhere in this sport.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. Rick just put it on his Twitter. With Freeway Rick Ross entering boxing as an advisor. Oh, so all right. So Rick Ross wants to be an advisor. Freeway and I have been on some podcasts, and he's humble, blah, blah, blah. Rick Ross and I have formed a collaboration for GlazierBoxing.com. Continues to operate as has been for 31 years, providing services worldwide. TeamWay-FreewayBoxing.com is now fully entrenching advising fighters. I fully endorse Freeway's efforts and ascent in boxing. Man. So I guess they're doing some kind of advising stuff.
I hope them all the success in the world, but I really do. But Rick done burned so many bridges, man. Ain't no way in the world. That's like people hiring you. That's like people saying, you know what? Okay, Sean, you go in there and be like, look, I got this boxing and basketball promotions. I got a couple of fighters I'm advising, so we want to try to sit down and negotiate a fight. They'd be like, Sean Craddock? Oh, no. You cover the PVC. It ain't about me. It's about the fighters. I'm just here to Rick Glazier did. I mean, he made people tweet him that don't even tweet.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, and people get the wrong thing about Leonard. Leonard is a nice guy. He really is. He's not the guy that people see when you like. They told me to go see him. He was on The Shop. They said he on that LeBron James show, The Shop. That we got to go see the Leonard Ellerbe interview. He turns into Tupac and start like letting people have it. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, he was going off on The Shop. I'm like, that is not Leonard Ellerbe. I'm like, I got to see that just to see what they talking about. Because I'm like, I haven't seen it. But he's a strength and conditioning coach. The thing about Leonard is, and that's how he got the job from Jeff. Jeff Mayweather was the manager. Jeff was doing the managing of Floyd for a while. So when Leonard was there, this is how all of this transitioned. Jeff is the one that Leonard had nowhere to really go when he got out there. So he was sleeping on Jeff Mayweather's couch.
Leonard was?
Yeah, Leonard Elby. He used to sleep on Jeff's couch. Jeff was the manager of Floyd. And then there was this discrepancy about some money missing, and that's how Jeff ended up getting replaced. And Jeff's like, I didn't take the money. And, it's all this talk about who took the money. And he's like, I didn't touch the money. But he was the manager. So he ended up being replaced. But Leonard ended up being in charge of Floyd's training and started helping Floyd Mayweather with his training. So he became the strength and conditioning coach. And he wasn't even a trainer for boxing or anything. He wasn't even a manager. He was the strength and conditioning coach. Leonard was in charge of training. Leonard will get you in shape. So he brought in this military style of training for Floyd. And Floyd's all liked the discipline. He liked the results he was getting training with Leonard and saying, I like the way Leonard got me, because that way Leonard's like, you can eat what you want as long as you work and you'll burn that off. Like you can eat, you don't got to change what you eat. All these people eating salads and all that stuff. He's like, they do all that because they ain't gonna put the work in. He's like, for a fighter, you need to have those calories because you're finna burn all of it. So you got to just keep doing those sit-ups that he do, that Leonard holding his legs and come all the way up, punch and go back down. When he started doing those military, those are like Marine sit-ups. Leonard brought a whole training regimen in for physical training and mix it in with his boxing, and Floyd loved it, and Leonard was his guy.
Yeah.
So that was it. So it was L, and Leonard brought in a certain class. Like he was a jogging suit guy then. But he started, that's all he wore was jogging suits. He was got a gym bag. He was sleeping on Jeff's couch, but he's the nicest guy in the world. And Mayweather Sr. didn't like him because, of course, he's in his way. Big Floyd, you in my way. So that was a problem. I mean, the guy got some teeth knocked out defending.
Who got some teeth knocked out?
Leonard Elby.
Leonard Elby got his teeth knocked out.
Yeah. Trying to stick up for Floyd. It was during that negotiational period where he owed
I got you.
Mr. Prince some money, and Mr. Prince went there to get the money, and Leonard kind of got in the way, and I guess to show that they meant business, Leonard had to take one for the team. A phone call was made, and Floyd was on the phone, and he was very frantic with Bob Arum, saying, we need this money now. Now. And he was like, all right, let me get him on the phone. I'll Western Union the money over there right away and make sure, they said, no, it's got to be cash. And now it's got to be cash, and it's got to be now.
Wow, so Bob Arum was able to pull that off?
Yeah, Bob had to pull some strings and go.
So after Bob Arum saved him, he just craps all over Bob Arum now.
Well, yeah, he had Roger. When Roger first came to Vegas, he was sleeping in Bob Arum's office. He had nowhere to stay, so he was sleeping in Bob Arum's office.
So Bob Arum has really done a lot for the Mayweather family.
Yeah, it goes all the way back to Roger. Roger was sleeping on the couch. So Roger had the place, then everybody was mostly staying at Roger's. That's how they came to Vegas. Then Floyd had an apartment right over there by Circus. That's where he was staying at when he first got there, after he stayed with Roger Mayweather, who had like 50,000 cars in his grass. I'm like, he is straight country as can be. 50 broke down cars in his yard. They don't work. They just broke down. They just gonna sit there. Collect that.
Oh man.
And that's how you know you at Rogers' house. And it's just like that with my family down south. I'm like, what is this car? This car's from like 1960 something. It's got the grass that grew inside of the car.
Wow.
I'm like, this car has been sitting there and has not moved. I'll be like, why won't y'all just tow this away to a junkyard?
Right. Carcino, do you ever know what happened to Alex Ariza?
Not really. I think he went to working with he was working with somebody, the strength and conditioning coach somewhere else. But I don't know what happened with Alex after that. Like he came and he went. He thought that, man, I'm not getting the benefit of the money. People are talking about me, and because all the people online were talking about him, all the articles, and like, who is this Alex Ariza? What is he giving Manny? What is happening? He was the bigger star, and him and Freddie had that big fallout because he was like, look, you saw the way Manny was before I got there, and now you see where he is after I got there. And you start seeing Freddie get all the money, all these deals for Freddie. Freddie Roach is this and that because he's Mick and that's Rocky. You know, this is what it was, not Alex Ariza coming in. So I remember Freddie Roach told him, like, he's like, oh, what's because you say some magical words out of your mouth to Manny Pacquiao. Now all of a sudden that makes him fight better. I mean, Manny's an athlete. So somebody said he's working with Josh Taylor. They think he's with Josh Taylor, but he was like, oh, so he just magically fight better. And he was like, who are you, Mick? He's like, I'm Mick. That's Rocky. You Paulie.
Oh man.
It made everybody laugh. Freddie was funny. He's like, yeah, you Paulie. But over time, that relationship soured because Alex Ariza was getting his usual cut. And it was like, man, all this multi-millions of dollars going by. I'm making the ship go. I'm working with Manny, making sure he's doing this and that. And I'm taking in parts of training, but Freddie's getting all the money.
Right.
So he started to sound off about it, tried to get Manny to kind of step away from Freddie and start going with him. And that's what happened when people get in your ear and they start talking money. Like, look, if you get him we can make you his head trainer. Pacquiao can win these fights on his own. You ain't got to know that much about boxing. As long as he in physical shape, man, he'll win that fight. He's like, man, Freddie ain't doing the work. You know everybody else doing the work. So it need to be you, Alex. You the change. You the reason he fighting different. And, you know, he started listening to boxing websites. The people who run them, they were giving him that advice. He was buying into it. It split up.
And Carcino, and then that means what happened? Because over Manny Pacquiao's last, 3, 4, 5 fights, I haven't seen Michael Kontz. What happened to Michael Kontz?
Oh, Mike been let go.
Who was it that had him fired or let go?
Well, he was no longer needed. Michael Kontz was there to protect. He was supposed to be the manager. Top Rank hired him to be the manager to Manny Pacquiao. His job was to say no.
That's it.
Yeah, he got punched in the face too and beat up too because of it. Manny Pacquiao, he does not know how to say no. So that's the problem with Manny. He's too nice and he doesn't know how to say no. People in the Philippines just walk up to Manny and be like, I need money for my house. I need this many. And he would just be like, okay, you can have it. Give him the money. And
what?
Yeah, that Manny doesn't know how to say no to people. He don't. That's why he took the money from Oscar De La Hoya when they got off the plane and gave him that briefcase of money, and he signed the contract with Golden Boy Promotions. People forgot about that. He signed.
Hey, look, because Carcino, I remember you made a video years ago saying something along the lines, Manny Pacquiao has never seen a contract that he didn't like.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Bob Arum said. He never saw a contract he didn't like to sign. He would sign it off. And Oscar them did a dirty move. They pulled up at the airport. They grabbed him and put him in the car and said, look, we're going to sign you to Golden Boy. This suitcase of money is yours. He was, yeah, what do I sign? Manny signed it. Okay, I think. And he go right. He go in there. I signed with Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy.
But wasn't he with Top Rank at the time?
Yeah. He broke his Bob. Bob Arrow made him return that suitcase of money. He spent about half of it already. Like not half of it, but a lot, like a large portion. Like he spent already 100,000 of it. He's like, give the rest of that money back. I'm gonna send them the rest, and I'm about to sue them for tampering. So it was crazy.
Kev, do you think Manny Pacquiao becoming a Christian took away his killer instinct in the ring?
No, he had to become a Christian because he was out of control. But Michael Kans, let's get back to Kans.
Okay, yeah, Kans.
Yeah, Michael Kans was in there. He had wrote some books on Manny Pacquiao, or they did the story on Manny Pacquiao, right? Writing these books. So Kans, and this is what's so funny, his job was to tell people no. So that Manny would keep his money. So the guy's like, goes up to Manny and he said, Manny, he was gambling. The guy says, Manny, can I gamble with you? You know, give me some money to gamble. He was like, yeah, get it from Michael Kans. Tell him, yeah, you can get it. So he goes up to Michael Kans and was like, hey, you know, I need this. Manny says, okay. And Kans said, no, I don't care what Manny says, no. Manny said I can have it. You can't tell me. Manny said to get it from you. You make Manny out to be a liar. Manny. And he tries to go up, and security blocks him off, and he goes up to Michael Kans, and Kans wouldn't give him the money. Again, he's like, I don't care what Manny says. I said, no, I'm not giving up the money. Pow! He hits Michael Kans in the face.
Oh, wow.
Michael Kans, Michael Kans had a black eye and everything. And he told Michael Kans was going to come back to the States. And Bob Arrows, what the hell are you doing here? I put you in charge. You're his manager. He lives in the Philippines. Oh, but I don't live there. Then fucking move. Go to the Philippines. Stay there. Don't come back.
Oh, God. You sound just like Bob Arrows.
Had him living in the Philippines. Got him a Filipino wife. I'll get you a broad. Get him a put her on the page.
Are you telling me Michael Kans ended up marrying a Filipino woman while he was over there?
Yeah, they put him in a house and everything so he can stay there. I can't make this up.
Oh, God.
He had to stay there. He's like, look, you stay right there. What are you doing leaving Manny Pacquiao alone in the Philippines? I'll put you in there to gain control of the situation. Pacquiao loves to party because his friends would take him somewhere. He just would wild out. They could not. He spent a whole paycheck in one night for a fight.
Yeah.
So he got his, he made like about 600, 700,000. This is early in his career. As soon as he got it, that whole weekend by Monday, he was dead broke. He spent all 700,000.
Wow.
Hadn't paid a tax, ain't did nothing. As soon as he got that money and they cashed that check, he spent all of it in a week.
Wow.
Weekend. He was broke. So he was living on loans. Every fight he was going into, he was on loans. He was always in debt. Top Rank was like, look, this guy here and money is bad. So he started to get himself, he was like, man, I got to get some control. I'm just out here wilding. So Manny started getting to God and Christ and changing his life. And he really, for the first time, before he was saying it, he ain't bought in. And now he's like fully bought in.
Yeah.
Because he fought the whole Catholic religion thing in its own country to become just a regular Christian. You know, he broke
Right.
away from the Catholic Church, and that's like taboo in the Philippines.
Right.
So his mom was like, "This is why you lose." You know, she putting this curses and spells on people. So he really believed, like, no, this is the way. Christianity is the way. It changed him, but he had to be willing to change, and he finally changed. He really did change his ways
Right.
because he was just out there really bad. He started in the latter part of his career once he realized, like, it's gonna be over and I ain't gonna have anything.
Right.
That's when, yeah, he started to get a hold of it. He's like, you're not gonna have a family. Your family gonna struggle. You're gonna struggle, knowing that you did all this for your family, but you really was doing it for you. You're just gonna struggle from here on out. All that work you did to get here is gonna be washed all away. Everybody else gonna make money off of it. Because many knew people were stealing from him. He just didn't care. He didn't. He just didn't care. Money to him was just like, he probably need the money. Like they was like, he stole from you. Yeah, he probably needed the money. You know, that's how he looked at it. It's like, man, he can't be here. This dude done stole like 2-3 times.
Oh God.
And he was like, yeah,
It's all right.
he's my friend. Yeah, he's my friend, but you know, I know it's bad.
Hey, but Boo Boy's been his friend from day one, though, huh?
Oh yeah, Boo Boy, that's his guy, man. Boo Boy is never gonna leave this side. No
And what
matter
does Boo
what.
Boy do? Like, only thing I ever seen Boo Boy do was just hold some pads from time to time. What exactly was Boo Boy's job?
Boo Boy is the trainer. Boo Boy is really his trainer.
So it's not really Freddie Roach.
No, Freddie ain't really trained Manny in years. Like he's there when they roll the cameras. They be roll the camera. Freddie be in that pad. It's like, look, Freddie's more on strategy, but Boo Boy can do everything. Boo Boy was at the point. Freddie said Boo Boy knows it. We didn't work. He done been in all our camps. He knows what we do. He knows what. But when the pressure gets on in situations, you know, Manny is instinctive anyway. So he don't really need Freddie to give him a game plan. Freddie was just the guy he was comfortable with because he's an aggressive fighter. Freddie was aggressive, but Freddie fought with his head first, then the punch. Stick! 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 I was like, Freddie Roach, I mean, he was rough. He was rugged. He got in a bar fight. He bit a man's eyeball.
What? Freddie Roach bit a man's eyeball.
Yeah, bit his own eyeball out.
Bit it out? No way, Kev.
Bit it out. You didn't know this about Freddie Roach? Freddie Roach was rugged, dude. They got in a bar fight. He got in a bar fight, and he was fighting for his life. And Freddie Roach bit the guy's eyeball out. He was fighting to the death. He felt like he was going to lose. And they was going to kill him. Like, they were beating him that bad. Like, they was going to kill him. And he bit that. He grabbed a guy and bit his eyeball out. He's like, he had the lashes. He still had the guy's eyelashes in his teeth. Yeah, he had the guy's eyelashes in his teeth. And when it was over, he's like, after he bit the guy's eyeball out, they left him alone. Then the rest of the guys, they was like, man, this dude bit his eyeball out, man. They grabbed their buddy, man, and they just got out of there. And he didn't go to jail for it or nothing. You know, it's just
wow.
Just a bar fight.
Kev, you definitely had some stories that I definitely didn't know about. And definitely that Freddie Roach was like that. Because you said one time before, Freddie Roach, you said all Freddie Roach teaches is just offense. Freddie doesn't have an arsenal defense in his arsenal at all. It's all offense for Freddie.
Yep, it's offense.
Which was great for Manny Pacquiao until Marquez knocked him out.
Right. He don't know how to teach defense. He just didn't know. And there was a whole lot of things, man, that in the boxing game people didn't know about. Like the guy that was supposed to take over the gym was the former heavyweight champion of the world. That was Freddie's right-hand man. He's supposed to run the wild card gym. He was
that, Michael Moore?
Yep. He's supposed to run the gym. People don't remember. He's like, yeah, what happened to him? He was the corner man and everything. He just disappeared. What happened? Like, he's like, he knocked out Eric Morales or what was that? Somebody and Ricky Hatton. I think the Ricky Hatton fight was probably the last time you saw him. That was it.
Right. Oh, Kev,
where he went.
Kev, speaking of breakups and split ups, man, what's the story behind? Do you know what's the real story behind? Why did Abel Sanchez and Triple G break up? What ended that relationship?
Money. Abel Sanchez felt like I should be getting more. Triple G thinks you should be getting less. And that's just how I have felt. It was all about money. And he thought, you could do this without me? He's like, well, I'm losing now. And I'm looking like crap and I'm losing. So now they lose confidence in you. You know, first it was Abel Sanchez, the greatest trainer ever. Then now he's losing. Now this is what happened when you lose. People get rid of the trainer. They got to find some reason they lose and getting beat on. But back to Michael Moore. And this is the first time it's ever been said.
Uh-oh.
Okay?
Yeah.
Michael Moore was very abusive. Domestic violence. Abusive.
Oh, wow.
To his female girlfriend, who's a female fighter.
Wow.
And they were in the car riding back from Manny Pacquiao's victory. Freddie was driving and everything.
Uh-huh.
And he had another episode where he was going to go off. And everybody knew that this was happening because they would see the marks on her. But
wow.
He was extra insane that day. And it scared Freddie. Freddie missed the exit that he's supposed to get off because he was so concerned with what was happening in the back.
Right.
So Freddie had to talk with him, and he had to go.
Wow.
He had to go. Nobody knows that until now.
Right. Wow.
That went down.
Do you think, Kev, from your personal standpoint, or unless you have medical proof, do you think some of that had to do with taking too many shots and CTE and all that? Because you hear about guys beating on women, all that because of the brain damage.
I believe that with Michael Moore. Michael was always a little sensitive and emotional, and like all of his fights, he would tune out. He was always very deep. But I do believe that played a big major part in that, and he had to leave. He couldn't be there no more. And a lot of people didn't know that happened, but that definitely happened.
Wow.
And I didn't want. The only reason I didn't say it, I didn't want to embarrass the female fighter girlfriend that he was dating at the time, so I didn't want to bring no embarrassment to her. But that was sad.
Right. All right, well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Man, we can't thank Carcino enough for being on here with the co-host. And man, Kev, one thing about Carcino, man, he always has a story that I ain't never heard. And then he comes back and said, well, Sean, I done told you this story 10 times already. I'm like, you did?
I don't think I told you these.
But he ain't tell me this story.
I ain't tell you these.
Hey, listen, so fight fans, we want to thank y'all for being on, man. Thanks for donating to the super chat. And man, thanks for being on. And listen, don't forget to rock with us tomorrow as Demetrius Andre will be on at 8 o'clock. And hopefully we can get Carcino back on next Monday at 9 if he's available. Make sure you go buy that shirt. Carcino, where can people buy LeBron lose chips all the time, B? Where can they buy your merchandise?
They can get that on in the Teesprings. The link is in the description box of all my videos. The LeBron
Carcino for life. LeBron James voice. All right, yeah. Make sure y'all check that out, man. On Carcino for Life, the description is down there. Make sure you like and subscribe to his channel. Keep donating to the super chat. Make sure you check out Carcino's Patreon. I'm subscribed to it, and I get alerts all the time with some exclusive videos that he doesn't put on his regular YouTube. So definitely subscribe to the Patreon. What else? Are we missing anything else, Carcino?
No, that's it. You got
All right,
about 30 seconds.
All right. Once again, thanks for y'all time. Till next time, Boxing Socialist Casino, we signing out.